The day after my husband perished heroically on the battlefield, his last will and testament arrived. Within it, several directives were laid out for me. First, annually donate 50,000 taels of gold to the charitable hall at the frontier. Is this intended to deplete my dowry? Second, you shall never remarry and must care for my parents. Do they expect me to continue as a mere housekeeper? Third, your son shall not inherit my title. Has the honor of the imperial scholar's position been renounced as well? My in-laws showed no signs of mourning for their lost son, but instead incessantly urged me, why not hasten to fulfill his last wishes? However, the journey from the frontier to the capital takes a month. Is this a premeditated farewell? When the letter arrived, I was utterly bewildered. I had been married to Liang Yaozu for 17 years, and it was the first time I discovered that he was not only the general of the northern town but also a seer. He had foreseen his own demise a month in advance. Just as I was questioning the authenticity of the letter, my in-laws unexpectedly entered my courtyard. Before I could greet them, my mother-in-law eagerly exclaimed, "Has my Yaozu sent a letter?" Faced with the expectant expressions of the elderly couple, I found myself at a loss for words. Although they had often belittled me for my merchant background over the years, openly mocking me both subtly and overtly, I was clever enough to know how to navigate the situation. Setting aside the possibility that the letter could be a forgery, even if it were genuine, I could not bluntly inform them, "Your son has died." So, I concealed the letter behind my back and fabricated a lie. "It is not a letter from Yaozu. It is from my maternal family." "You're talking nonsense," my mother-in-law scolded, pointing a finger at me in anger. "Today is the 2nd day of the 7th month. My son said he would send a letter today." I was taken aback. "When did he say that?" "On the day he departed for battle," my mother-in-law replied. "What? Had Liang Yaozu predicted his own death 6 months ago? If he possessed such foresight, why did he risk his life on the battlefield? He could have simply set up a fortune-telling stall and amassed a fortune." While I was lost in thought, my father-in-law rushed over and snatched the letter from behind my back. I had crumpled the paper in my grip, and, before he could open it, my mother-in-law had already burst into tears. "Oh, my poor Yaozu. How could this happen? You sacrificed yourself for the country. You are a great hero of the Liang family. Your father and mother will fulfill all your last wishes." After that, she turned to glare at me and imperiously commanded, "Hurry and bring out your dowry to send to the charity hall at the border." My father-in-law adopted the demeanor of a patriarch, declaring, "Though Yaozu is gone, our Liang family is kind-hearted and will not cast you away. From now on, you are to bow and give thanks to us every morning and evening. You will also be responsible for all expenses of the General's residence." My mother-in-law continued to ramble about needing to eat a big pork knuckle for nourishment, while my father-in-law insisted on opening fine wine to celebrate. Had they really turned a death into a celebration? Yet, despite their apparent senility, I could not afford to be oblivious. The death of the general of the northern town in battle would surely be a significant event. How could no one have informed the General's residence? Was it really as simple as sending a letter? No body, no confirmation of death? I needed to enter the palace and seek an audience with the emperor to clarify the situation. However, my in-laws blocked my path, insisting that the letter was genuine, claiming it bore their son's handwriting. Just as our trio was engulfed in chaos, Liang Ziyu returned. My in-laws seemed to find strength in his presence and hurriedly showed him the letter, crying out that I was unworthy of being a wife, incapable of fulfilling my husband's final wishes. Liang Ziyu quickly scanned the letter and then glared at me in fury. My in-laws, hands on their hips, fanned the flames. "Grandson, make this wicked woman bring forth all her money to send to the border. I had struggled to raise a son who became a top scholar, and now," he pointed at me with disdain, "my father is the general of the northern town. The most despicable thing he would not tolerate in life was spending a woman's money. In death, I will not allow you to use money to tarnish his name." My in-laws were momentarily stunned. This was not the response they had expected. Meanwhile, I was utterly heartbroken by my son's attitude. Before my in-laws could speak, I burst into tears. "Are you saying that the General's residence will no longer spend my money?" My mother-in-law quickly waved her hands. "Spend. Spend. We will spend." My father-in-law thumped his thigh. "Ginseng, abalone, bird's nest, not a single one should be missing." Liang Ziyu stared directly at me, nodding emphatically yes. We will not let your money corrupt us. I reminded him, but your father's last wish. Liang Ziyu remained unfazed, patting his despairing grandparents on their shoulders. If worst comes to worst, let grandfather and grandmother set up a stall on the street. 73 is the perfect age to venture out. 2. As Liang Ziyu's words echoed, my in-laws gasped, nearly fainting. The servants rushed to support them back into their chairs. Liang Ziyu, in a panic, tried to revive them, pinching their skin and splashing them with cold water. Ultimately, when all efforts failed, the dutiful Liang Ziyu resorted to slapping each of them to wake them up. At last, they were roused, clutching their stinging cheeks, ready to explode. But their grandson interrupted with a cry, "You're finally awake. If you both pass away now with me having no father, I will have no interest in inheriting this grand general's residence and living a life of luxury." My in-laws were speechless. Observing the familial bond between the three of them, I felt like an outsider standing by. A profound chill enveloped me as I recalled how, years ago, I had severed ties with my father, the foremost merchant in the realm, to marry Liang Yaozu. 17 years later, I found myself as an outsider in the Liang family. As I wallowed in sorrow, Liang Ziyu was already pulling up his trembling grandparents, determined to take them out to set up a stall, insisting that his grandfather, who had once been a military officer, should break stones with his chest. My father-in-law shook his head vigorously, resembling a rattledrum. Liang Ziyu reassured him, "Grandfather, do not be afraid," just like grandmother wielded the hammer gently. My mother-in-law was speechless. As the three of them prepared to leave, I could no longer restrain myself and called out, "Wait." My in-laws turned around, their eyes glistening with tears. Clearly, my attempt to prevent them from raising money for their son had nearly brought them to tears. However, I felt compelled to remind them that, at present, there was only a letter and no body. Was it not too hasty to conclude that Liang Yaozu was dead? Should I not go to the palace to inquire?
No.
No need. My in-laws and Liang Ziyu spoke in unison, cutting me off. Liang Ziyu spread the letter before me. The handwriting here is undoubtedly my father's. There can be no forgery. My mother-in-law nodded vigorously. Yet, Liang Ziyu shifted his tone. I indeed must go to the palace. After all, the letter states that I cannot inherit the title. If that is the case, I shall request the emperor to revoke the general's title.
With that,
He prepared to leave. My in-laws, now realizing the implications, clutched his legs tightly. My father-in-law exclaimed, "You cannot go." My mother-in-law added, "The title cannot be revoked." Liang Ziyu, perplexed, asked if I cannot inherit it, keeping the title would be a waste. Why shouldn't I have the emperor take it back? My in-laws stammered, struggling to find a response. Unable to contain myself, I ventured a guess. Could it be that my husband has an illegitimate child? Before my in-laws could react,
Maison interjected, impossible.
my father would never stoop to such a sordid act. I will have the emperor revoke the title and restore my father's honor. With that, he broke free from my in-laws' grasp and galloped towards the palace, heedless of their frantic cries behind him. All that remained for them was a mouthful of dust. They chased him halfway down the street before collapsing from exhaustion. The servants helped them back to their room. I sat alone in the courtyard, awaiting Liang Ziyu's return. Until midnight, he had yet to come back. I was filled with worry, but did not wish to disturb anyone. Therefore, I took a shortcut, intending to exit the residence through the back gate. Yet, I faintly overheard a rustling sound. I lightened my footsteps and casually picked up a branch. I approached slowly, then, with my eyes closed, dashed forward, unleashing a barrage of fire.
Ah. Oh.
Ouch, ouch, ouch. Stop, stop. After I had worked up a sweat from my onslaught, I finally discerned the cries for mercy. Why do they sound so familiar? I halted my movements and cautiously opened my eyes. There lay my in-laws, groaning on the ground. I hurriedly helped them up and anxiously surveyed the surroundings. Did you too see the thief? My father-in-law retorted, "Thief, my foot. It's us. You venomous woman. Are you trying to kill us just because my son is away, so you can inherit this general's mansion?" I was perplexed. What is there to inherit in such a small house? It's not even half the size of my own private residence. My mother-in-law grew even angrier. Are you still belittling our home? You, a merchant's daughter, no matter how wealthy, are still lowly. If it weren't for my son marrying you, would you have achieved such a class leap? I concurred. Indeed, had it not been for my father-in-law's prior position as a ninth-rank royal tomb guard, I would have had no way to claim my husband hails from a martial family when purchasing his official title. My in-laws shouted, "Shut your mouth." I obediently fell silent. Yet, my gaze fell upon a piece of letter paper on the ground. Swiftly, I picked it up. My in-laws panicked and scrambled to snatch it from me, but I had already unfolded it. The letter began with "To my son." Upon seeing those 4 words, I fell into a momentary silence. I stared blankly at my in-laws. The elderly couple stood there, bewildered, their eyes darting around, filled with guilt. I clutched the letter tightly. After a long pause, I finally spoke. "This letter is addressed to Liang Yaozu. So you have been deceiving me all along." My in-laws frantically waved their hands, muttering, No, it's all a misunderstanding. We were just joking with you." I forced a bitter smile.
Don't say that.
At this point, do you still wish to deceive me? I spread the letter wide and questioned loudly, "If you truly care for Liang Yaozu, why don't you weep openly? Why pretend to be indifferent?"
My in-laws,
who had been explaining, were momentarily taken aback by my words.
"What?"
they exclaimed. "Since this is a letter for my husband, I shall burn it for him." Before they could react, I swiftly pulled out a match and ignited the letter. My in-laws attempted to intervene, but it was too late. They slumped to the side, as if all hope had been lost. Just then, Liang Ziyu returned, bearing 2 pieces of news. First, the border had indeed confirmed the death of Liang Yaozu. Second, the court had dispatched individuals to retrieve his remains, once he was laid to rest. His last wishes would be honored, and his title would be revoked. The Liang family would never hold a title again.
Ga.
My in-laws gasped in shock. Liang Ziyu proudly turned to me. "I have resigned my position to the emperor. I will no longer be a top scholar. From now on, our Liang family shall never serve in government again. We will rely on our own hands for sustenance." I witnessed my in-laws tremble at his words, shaking even more violently. After that night, Liang Ziyu seemed intent on proving a point to me. Aside from the maid who accompanied my dowry, he dismissed all other servants from the residence, leaving only a gatekeeper. He also sought out a broker to sell the general's mansion. Once everything was settled, he took my in-laws to the market at dawn each day to perform for a living. The sight of the 3 of them, grandparents and grandson, was undeniably inspirational. Yet, having been married to Liang Yaozu for 17 years, I could not bear to see his parents suffer while his body was still warm. However, if I acted rashly, it would surely provoke Liang Ziyu's resentment. Thus, I resorted to hiring street thugs to trouble them, hoping they would back down. Alas, even if they had all misunderstood me, I still cared for them deeply. The thugs demanded payment for their services. On the first day, as they observed my in-laws performing, one asked, "How old are you?" My father-in-law replied, 73. The thug scoffed, "You're at a bad age, unlucky," and overturned their stall. On the second day, they continued their performance, and the thug approached again. My mother-in-law started, "We misspoke yesterday. We are actually 72. The thug inquired, "Sir, have you had breakfast?" My mother-in-law shook her head, "Not yet." The thug mocked, "Poor wretches. Can't even afford breakfast, unlucky," and overturned their stall again. On the third day, before the thug could reach them, Liang Ziyu shouted, "My grandparents are 72 this year, and they have had breakfast. They are the parents of the valiant General Liang Yaozu. We are wealthy. We are not poor wretches." The thug retorted, "If you are rich, why are you performing on the streets? Just pretentious, unlucky," and overturned their stall once more. This continued for several days until my in-laws could no longer endure it. They came to me in tears, pleading for me to quickly provide 50,000 taels of gold to the charity hall at the border. Otherwise, they feared Liang Ziyu would drive them to death. This sum was but a trifling amount for me. However, if I complied, it would only exacerbate the already strained relationship between my son and me. Seeing my hesitation, my in-laws ceased their act of pity and directly pointed at me, scolding, "You are the true daughter-in-law of the Liang family, brought in with real gold and silver. Your dowry belongs to the Liang family. Ever since you married in, it should have been handed over to us. Now, you are merely being asked to return what is rightfully ours, and yet you hesitate. Do you believe we will invoke the 7 Outlaws law and divorce you, casting you out of the family?" At this point, the elderly couple chuckled smugly. A married daughter is like spilled water. If it weren't for our son's success as a great general, would your Song family still hold the position of the #1 merchant in the empire? If the emperor learns you've been divorced, without our family to back you, don't be surprised if your father disowns you and your family's merchant position is reclaimed by the emperor. I gasped in shock. Is it that serious? My in-laws glared at me. Be sensible and quickly bring forth your dowry, then go to your family and demand 500,000 taels. Otherwise, prepare to be divorced under the 7 Outlaws law. Feeling helpless, just as I was about to head to my private treasury, Liang Ziyu intercepted me, declaring, "You shall not go." I reiterate, from now on, our Liang family will not spend a single coin of yours. You shall not corrupt us with your money. I looked with concern at my son, who had lost weight. If you don't use my money, how will you gather 50,000 taels? Liang Ziyu haughtily replied, I will sell the general's mansion. I sighed. Such a small place could fetch at most 10,000 taels. He, however, was determined, once my father's remains are returned, I will display his body in the mansion. He died a hero for the nation. Surely, every visitor will pay at least a tael to see him. Furthermore, I plan to invite a Taoist priest to perform rituals to bind my father's spirit to this mansion. When the time comes, with a valiant general's spirit presiding over it, how could we not sell it for a good price? Watching my son's proud expression, I couldn't help but applaud. Son, you are truly a genius. He nodded proudly, of course, just like my father. My in-laws, overhearing this, seemed to gasp once more.
Meanwhile,
news from the palace indicated that Liang Yaozu's remains would arrive in the capital in 3 days. Liang Ziyu, after all, was exceptionally filial. In a fervent quest to amass the 50,000 gold pieces stipulated in his father's will, he became consumed by an insatiable desire for wealth. He first rallied his in-laws, draping the entire general's residence in stark white mourning cloth. He even pried loose the couple's long-saved private funds, preparing for a grand funeral procession for 10,000 mourners 3 days hence. His in-laws toiled tirelessly, hanging the white fabric throughout the day. Upon hearing that Liang Ziyu intended to orchestrate a lavish farewell for Liang Yaozu, the pent-up emotions of many days finally erupted. They lamented, "What a sin! Your father is passed. He must be laid to rest in peace. Upon returning, he shall be buried directly, and no one is to disturb him." Liang Ziyu shrugged. "That is not permissible. I have not only invited the citizens of the capital, but have also requested all the noble families to prepare gifts." His in-laws screamed, "Inform them to cancel. It is too late. I have even invited His Majesty. I am determined to ensure my father departs with grandeur, forever etched in the hearts of others."
Ga, ga.
As his in-laws continued their oscillating wails, Liang Yaozu's coffin, escorted by his deputy and a contingent of imperial guards, arrived in the capital. After all, he had perished for the nation. Despite Liang Ziyu's prior arrangements, it was the citizens who spontaneously lined the streets to welcome him home. Among the murmurs, one could faintly hear the sounds of weeping. Even the emperor had entered the general's residence early, wishing to pay his last respects to Liang Yaozu. The only one absent was Liang Ziyu, who had always held his father in high regard. As the solemn, ebony coffin was hoisted down from the carriage, his deputy, Cui Yingying, with reddened eyes, turned to me and said, "Sister, I have come to escort brother Yaozu home." My hand brushed against the coffin, its icy touch sending a chill through my very core. When I first encountered Liang Yaozu at the age of 16, he was encircled by a group of ruffians led by Jiang Linchuan, being beaten at the entrance of a tavern. Due to the Song family status as imperial merchants, I had known such individuals from a young age. Yet, the disparity in our standings rendered me powerless to intervene, fearing it might jeopardize the family business. Just as I was about to leave, Jiang Linchuan spotted me. His youthful exuberance set him apart from the crowd. He viciously pressed his foot against Liang Yaozu's face, wrenching a broken jade pendant from his grasp. Enraged by the sight of the shattered jade, Jiang Linchuan kicked Liang Yaozu. As it seemed Liang Yaozu would not withstand the assault, I could no longer bear to watch and stepped in front of him. Jiang Linchuan protested, "Erwin, this pendant was a gift from you. This scoundrel not only stole it but shattered it. Today I must kill him," he declared, advancing. I hurriedly interposed myself between the two. "That pendant holds no value, but it is the only one you gave me as a coming-of-age gift. I soothed. I shall present you with an even finer one. After much negotiation, I finally appeased Jiang Linchuan by promising to accompany him to the tea house to enjoy a performance. As we departed, I signaled to a maid to take the unconscious Liang Yaozu to the medical hall and provided her with 100 taels of gold. His act of theft was wrong, yet the pendant did not warrant such severe punishment. That day, I spent the entire day in Jiang Linchuan's company. By midnight, he returned to the palace, and I made my way home. As I dragged my weary body to the entrance of the Song residence, I spotted Liang Yaozu curled up in a corner. At that time, his father held merely a ninth-rank official position and was assigned to guard the mausoleum. The meager salary sent home each month barely sufficed for their sustenance, let alone to treat Liang Yaozu's mother's sudden illness. Thus, he resorted to theft, unaware that the individual he had wronged was the third prince born of the favored concubine, a strong contender for the throne. I crouched down, brushing the cold, sweat-soaked hair from Liang Yaozu's face. As our gazes met, I noticed he possessed a certain handsomeness. He hoarsely thanked me. "Thank you for the 100 taels." Unbidden, I found myself asking, "Would you be willing to pledge yourself to me?" "Sister, please step aside. Let Brother Yaozu enter quickly." A voice laced with tears interrupted my reverie. I turned to see the red-eyed Cui Yingying. She was a martial prodigy who had emerged 3 years prior. I recalled how Liang Yaozu had spoken of her with admiration when he first introduced her to me. Subsequently, he promoted her to the rank of deputy, and they fought side by side, inseparable. Even in his final moments, she was at his side. "Sister, please move aside." Seeing my lack of response, Cui Yingying grew anxious and attempted to push me away. I seized her delicate wrist, feeling the smoothness of her palm, and calmly said, "He cannot enter." My voice was soft, yet it silenced the clamoring crowd. The mourners surrounding us stared at me in disbelief. After all, no one expected I would prevent my husband's corpse from entering the residence. Cui Yingying exclaimed, "Sister, Brother Yaozu is a great hero of the great Liang. How can you humiliate him so? His only wish before he died was to return to the capital quietly and be buried swiftly, without causing any trouble." With that, she urged the imperial guards to carry the coffin into the residence, but I once again obstructed them. I produced the will from my bosom and displayed it before the crowd. My husband returned with a letter before his death, stating his final wish was for his remains to be placed at the entrance of the general's residence for all to see, for 49 days. I wiped away my tears. I am merely fulfilling my husband's final wish. Cui Yingying erupted in fury, her voice sharp as she cried, "Nonsense. This is a forgery. Brother Yaozu clearly wrote." "What did he write?" I pressed closer, challenging her. "The letter my husband penned was meant for my eyes alone. How would a mere deputy know its contents?" Cui Yingying stumbled back, but as if struck by a revelation, she straightened and faced me. "When Brother Yaozu wrote the letter, he did not conceal it from me. Naturally, I know its contents. The letter you hold is nothing but a fabrication. As his primary wife, not only are you ungrieved by your husband's passing, but you also forged documents to disgrace him. No wonder he spoke of your scheming heart, your jealousy and malice. Brother Yaozu surrounded himself with men, forbidding even a maid to serve him. He had to be wary of being betrayed by you even while sharing the same bed." Cui Yingying wept as she spoke, her sincerity igniting the sympathy of the onlookers. The gathered citizens pointed at me, murmuring, "Indeed, she is the daughter of a merchant. Even as the general's wife, she cannot rise to prominence. Truly unfortunate for General Liang. Without a harem, he ended up with such a wife." Cui Yingying's words sent a chill through me. Thus, this was how Liang Yaozu spoke of me to others. He had promised me on our wedding night that we would be together for eternity. He himself had insisted on having no maidservants, desiring only a life of purity.
Now,
those promises had become arrows aimed at my heart. I had once contemplated granting him another chance, but now I would show them the true meaning of a vengeful woman. I held the will firmly, refusing to yield. No matter how Cui Yingying insisted it was false, I remained steadfast. I merely told her, "Let those who question provide proof. If you claim it is a forgery, then produce the original." Naturally, Cui Yingying had no such document. As we stood at an impasse, a sudden cacophony of drums and music echoed from the entrance. Everyone turned to see Liang Zu leading a troupe of musicians, clashing gongs and beating drums as they approached. They had even constructed a mobile stage, upon which performers sang, "Today is a fine day. Auspicious events shall unfold. Today is indeed a fine day." The absurdity of the scene left everyone bewildered. It seemed we had all lost our minds. I could not care less about stopping the coffin from entering. I hurriedly ran over to prevent Liang Jiu from speaking out, lest he become the subject of gossip. However, before I could approach him, he pointed at me and impatiently exclaimed, "Today is a day of great joy. Do not add distress to my father." I was taken aback, and so was everyone else. It was only when our in-laws respectfully escorted His Majesty out of the general's residence that we heard the emperor's authoritative inquiry, "Liang Jiu, how can there be joy when your father has passed?" The crowd gasped in shock, kneeling in reverence. Only my son and I stood upright. Liang Jiu bowed respectfully and, with unwavering composure, replied, "Your Majesty, my father was your personally appointed valiant general. A general dies on the battlefield, sacrificing himself for the country, ensuring decades of peace for the people of the border. Is that not a cause for celebration?" The emperor frowned, "But do you not grieve for your father?" Liang Jiu resolutely shook his head. "From the day he marched off to war, I have been without a father and my mother without a husband. The general has perished. The enemy has been vanquished, and the people rejoice. Should we not allow them to pay their respects to my father's visage? Should we not ensure that everyone remembers the bravery with which he fell in battle?" The emperor mused. "You present a compelling argument."
Kui Yinging, in a flaster, interjected.
"Your Majesty, this is not right." Liang Jiu shouted, "Bring forth the coffin. Open it." The musicians ceased their playing, rushing forward to lift the coffin lid. The crowd erupted in excitement, clamoring to view the remains. Amidst the chaos, Liang Jiu hastily set up a table to manage the onlookers, urging them to remain orderly in their viewing. In the midst of the turmoil, only Cui Yingying clung to the coffin, preventing anyone from touching it. Our in-laws, witnessing this, rushed forward to protect the remains. Faced with the elderly and women, the crowd hesitated to forcefully intervene, halting their actions. The in-laws wailed, "Grandson, are you to deny your father the peace of death?" I surveyed my son, pushed through the throng, and shoved aside my in-laws, declaring, "My son is dutiful. But I am a wicked woman. I shall be the one to lift the coffin lid." Just as I was about to act, Cui Yingying again tried to impede me, even attempting to slap me. Suddenly, two voices called out urgently from behind, "Erwan, mother." In the next moment, I seized her wrist and, with a slight force, brought down this rare martial arts prodigy to the ground. The crowd gasped in disbelief. Someone raised a question. Is the deputy general in the army truly so weak? Look at her waist. It seems even thinner than my wife's legs. Can such a person truly take to the battlefield and slay foes? Their whispers flushed Cui Yingying's face crimson. Liang Jiu rushed forward to defend her, stating, "You shall not speak ill of Aunt Cui. She was as close to my father as a sibling. If she lacked true capability, how could she have earned my father's affection?" At this proclamation, laughter erupted among the crowd. That true capability is likely not found on the battlefield, but rather in the bedroom. Yet there were also supporters of Liang Yaozu, who protested, "Do not slander General Liang. He was a devoted husband." I smirked coldly. Regardless, it was time for this once tender-hearted man, who had been dead for a month, to make his appearance. By heavens, he looked so lifelike. Indeed, when I lifted the coffin lid, Liang Yaozu, who had perished in the heat of summer a month ago, showed no signs of decay. Not only was he lifelike, but he even appeared rosy in complexion. Everyone was astonished, while our in-laws and Cui Yingying appeared utterly bewildered. It was until Liang Jiu cried out in panic, "A monster!" that the crowd was jolted awake. Shouts of "Protect the Emperor" encircled His Majesty, while panic ensued, causing people to scatter. Some even threw offerings of grains meant for mourning directly into the coffin. When these struck Liang Yaozu's body, his skin seemed to blush faintly. Remarkable. Indeed, as one person led, others quickly followed suit. Humans are such easily swayed creatures. Even though they had just been extolling Liang Yaozu's valor, their current animosity and fear were palpable. The crowd hurled whatever they had at the coffin, with several individuals picking up stones from the ground to throw. One struck Liang Yaozu's forehead, breaking the skin and drawing blood. Yet, throughout it all, The body within the coffin remained motionless, showing no change in expression. Unable to restrain myself, I reached out to touch his nose. There was indeed no breath. It was as though he were truly dead, yet his body remained uncorrupted.
Suddenly,
someone in the crowd shouted, "Burn him! Burn this monster!" As soon as those words were uttered, the entire crowd echoed, "Burn him! Burn him!" They moved closer to the coffin as they chanted. Realizing the danger, Cui Yingying rushed forward to stand before the coffin, shouting fiercely, "No! We cannot burn Brother Yaozu. He is not a monster." Someone in the crowd challenged, "Then why has he not decayed after a month?" Cui Yingying faltered, because he is indeed a monster. If we do not burn him, what if he harms us? Yes, burn this monster quickly. The throng surged forward. Our in-laws and Cui Yingying were powerless to stop them, being pushed aside in the tide that flowed toward me. Just as I raised a stick to disperse the unruly crowd, it inadvertently struck Cui Yingying in the abdomen.
Ah!
Her piercing scream startled everyone. The Zhou family fell silent, with only Cui Yingying curled on the ground, clutching her belly in pain, and a pool of blood slowly seeping beneath her. Fearing the consequences of death, the crowd recoiled in horror. Yet, a kind-hearted doctor rushed over to check Cui Yingying's pulse, only to kneel in shock, trembling as he reported, "Deputy Cui has miscarried."
What?
The emperor, who had been observing the spectacle with increasing irritation, finally spoke up. I turned to meet his gaze, recognizing the derision in his eyes. My personally appointed valiant general and his deputy is incapable and yet pregnant. I was unaware that such scandalous affairs transpired in the military. The emperor's thunderous reprimand caused everyone to fall to their knees. Our in-laws wailed and protested, claiming that their son had always upheld his integrity, celebrated as a good man throughout the capital.
Songwan,
speak up. You and Yaozu have shared a loving marriage for 17 years. Defend his honor. My gaze shifted from the blood beneath Cui Yingying to the faces of my in-laws, finally resting upon Liang Yaozu's lifelike yet lifeless visage in the coffin.
Ah, Iskufa.
Indeed, I knelt before the emperor, respectfully bowing my head, as a devoted wife. I assure you my husband would never engage in disreputable conduct. The child in Deputy Cui's womb likely belongs to another. I beseech your majesty to hold Deputy Cui accountable for her licentiousness within the military. I did not. The child in my womb is Liang Wu. Cui Yingying's words were cut off as Liang Ziyu covered her mouth. His tone was laced with an unnoticeable chill. Deputy Cui, my father is already dead. Do not tarnish his name. Cui Yingying, terrified, began to weep. He is not dead. He is not dead. He is not dead. He truly is not dead. Enough.
Interrupted Cui Yingying esse nonsensical rambling.
Are you implying that Liang Yaozu faked his death? I seized her collar, pulling her close. Cui Yingying, do you realize that faking one's death is a crime of treason, punishable by the destruction of one's entire clan?
So, did Liang Yaozu truly die?
Our in-laws muttered through clenched teeth. Cui Yingying, do not speak foolishness. He. Cui Yingying's eyes darted around, struggling to articulate a coherent response. Deputy General Cui, think it over before you speak. He is dead. With a confirmed answer, I shook off Cui Yingying, brushing my hands in disdain. I then turned and respectfully bowed to His Majesty. Your Majesty, my husband indeed perished on the battlefield for the sake of the great Liang, yet his uncorrupted body incites fear among the populace. I, as his wife, wished to alleviate the public's turmoil. Though I kept my head bowed, I could still sense the oppressive weight above me. And how do you propose to do that? I will invite the abbot of the State Protection Temple to perform rites for my late husband, and his body shall be displayed at the city gate for 7 days, ensuring the expulsion of any malevolent spirits. Song Ruan, you wicked woman. Upon hearing my words, my in-laws erupted in furious condemnation. That is your husband. How could you allow his corpse to be displayed atop the city walls? Are you intent on ensuring he cannot rest in peace? Grandson, speak up. Can you bear to witness your father endure such humiliation? Liang Ziyu gradually pried his grandparents' hands from him and spoke calmly. Grandfather and grandmother, it is unreasonable for Father's body not to decompose. Do you wish for His Majesty to suspect Father's death is feigned, that our Liang family is deceiving the throne? His Majesty remained silent. I lifted my gaze and after a moment, I heard a soft, agreed My in-laws collapsed to the ground, wailing in despair. This farce finally reached its conclusion when Liang Yaozu was hung upon the city wall. The sun blazed intensely, igniting a tumult of emotions within me. I stood beneath the wall, gazing up at Liang Yaozu. Footsteps approached from behind, and a paper umbrella shielded my head. Mother, I investigated your private treasury, and the beaching pill is indeed missing. That was a gift from Jiang Linchuan the night before my wedding. I had discarded it then, never anticipating that Liang Yaozu would discover it. I glanced at Liang Ziyu, realizing that this 16-year-old boy had grown significantly taller than I. He was no longer the child who would indulge in playful antics with me. Have we been too ruthless? He chuckled lightly and also looked toward the figure on the wall. Who mourns for him? Who will mourn for us? Liang Yaozu hung on the city wall for 6 days, and my in-laws visited daily to curse and berate me, demanding I take him down. But this was a decree from His Majesty. My words held no weight. On the 7th day, they returned, but I had already been summoned to the palace. I was led to the study, where the chief eunuch ushered me inside and closed the door behind me. In the vast palace, only His Majesty sat in the high seat. I knelt in reverence, proclaiming, "Long live the Emperor." The sovereign did not bid me rise but continued to write diligently. His head bowed. It was only when my knees throbbed with pain that I heard a soft chuckle. He consumed the beaching pill. My hands, which had been hanging limply, suddenly tightened. By consuming that, one can feign death for a week. Therefore, today marks the 7th day since his arrival in the city. His Majesty rose slowly, walking toward me with deliberate steps. Each footfall resonated in my ears until the golden dragon-embroidered boots halted before me. A large hand, bony and distinct, lifted my chin, compelling me to meet his gaze. General Liang has deceived the throne. That light, nonchalant assertion was enough to condemn the entire Liang family. I trembled, bowing my head and prostrating. Your Majesty, Liang Yaozu is truly dead. He fell in battle for the great Liang's glory. The Liang family is loyal and would never dare to deceive the throne. Today, I shall personally see to his burial, granting him rest in the earth. His Majesty paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Do you truly wish to see him dead? I raised my head resolutely. Your Majesty, it is not I who wishes for his death. He is already deceased. Ha! The Emperor laughed heartily, his voice growing louder with mirth. Song Ruan, your name bears Ruan, yet your heart is devoid of softness. Once, you refused to feign death to escape marriage for him, yet now you abandon him. His Majesty extended a decree toward me. The valiant general, having perished for his country, is deserving of honor. His wife shall be granted the title of first rank, and his son shall be made a prince, betrothed to Princess Yongning shortly. I received the decree with surprise as he added, thus, you shall be family. By the time I exited the palace, darkness had fallen. Liang Yaozu was lowered from the city wall by the imperial guards, placed in a coffin, and transported back to the Liang residence's mourning hall. There, 100 or so members of the Liang clan awaited. Upon entering the mourning hall, I immediately heard the clan leader command, kneel. Liang Ziyu stepped in front of me, about to retort, but I pulled him behind me. I am not so weak as to require your protection. Raising the imperial decree in my hand, I provocatively smiled at the clan leader. The decree is here, consider your position. A sea of bodies knelt before me. After I finished reading, silence enveloped the hall. The clan leader reluctantly acknowledged my elevated status, unable to suppress me with mere authority any longer. My in-laws desperately signaled him with their eyes. He cleared his throat twice and spoke. Song Ruan, your in-laws wish to hasten Yaozu's burial, to grant him peace. I nodded. That is only natural. My in-laws looked pleased, and the clan leader's expression relaxed. I instructed Liang Jiyu, as per the abbot's instructions, drive 49 soul-pacifying nails into the coffin, ensuring that malevolent spirits remain trapped within, forever unable to escape. Yes, mother. Liang Jiyu directed the servants to begin nailing the coffin. Suddenly, my in-laws' faces turned pale.
No.
If you nail the coffin shut, it cannot be opened. Liang Ziyu stared at them in confusion. Father is dead. What purpose would it serve to open the coffin? He turned to the clan leader. What do you say, clan leader? The clan leader, clearly unaware of the situation, gazed at my in-laws with evident puzzlement. They dared not speak. stammering in their attempts to prevent the nailing of the coffin. I slammed my hand on the table. These nails are treasures blessed by His Majesty's personal decree. To refuse to nail them is to defy imperial orders. The clan leader bristled at this, promptly commanding Liang clan members to restrain my in-laws. No matter how they cried out, the 49 nails were driven firmly into the coffin. Once everything concluded, the Liang clan members began to rise to leave. Liang Ziyu stopped them, wearing a polite smile. "Please wait a moment. We shall send off father together after nightfall." Though the crowd was bewildered, they complied, constrained by the decree in my hand. As night fell, silence enveloped the hall. The guests grew increasingly impatient, and the clan leader was the first to voice his frustration. Song 1. How much longer must we wait to depart? I glanced at the hour, calculating the time. Soon. My in-laws fidgeted restlessly beside me. At the stroke of midnight, a sudden scream erupted from within the coffin, followed by the sound of wood scraping. Everyone gasped, huddling together in panic. What was that? What is making that noise? Could it be a malevolent spirit? Liang Ziyu and I exchanged glances, and in each other's eyes, we saw no trace of regret. The noises from the coffin grew louder, the scratching against the wood increasingly grating. My in-laws could no longer contain themselves, rushing forward to pound on the coffin. "Hold on, my son. Mother and father are coming to save you." Then they knelt before me, bowing repeatedly. Song 1. Please, open the coffin and release Yazu. Before I could respond, the clan leader interrupted angrily. Nonsense. Yaozu is dead. There is certainly a malevolent spirit within.
No. No.
My in-laws shook their heads vehemently. Yaozu is not dead. He took the death-feigning medicine. The clan leader scoffed. Nonsense. Such a medicine cannot possibly exist. My in-laws turned to me. Song Hua knows. That medicine was stolen from you by Yaozu. The crowd was momentarily taken aback. Then, almost instinctively, their gazes shifted from me to the coffin. The clan leader, uncertain, inquired, Song Huan, is it truly so? I scoffed. How could that be? My in-laws are merely driven to madness by their overwhelming longing for their son, spouting nonsensical words. But the voice from within the coffin is distinctly, I interjected softly, issuing a warning, clan leader, should the person be alive, the entire Liang clan would face annihilation. The clan leader, terrified, collapsed into his chair, rendered mute by the wailing of my in-laws. I addressed all the members of the Liang clan present. The sound we just heard was that of a night owl in heat. I trust everyone has comprehended that. Eyes darted between me and one another, before ultimately returning to the clan leader. The elder sighed deeply. Indeed, it is the cry of a night owl in heat. His words served as a final verdict, prompting collective nods from the assembly. My in-laws had already fainted from their grief. The clan leader asked, "May we take our leave?" I nodded and replied, "I am grateful to each of you for accompanying my husband on his final journey." The throng of people dispersed en masse. In no time, the mourning hall was left with only myself, Liang Ziyu, and my unconscious in-laws. Approaching the coffin, I personally lit incense for him. Handing a stack of paper money to Liang Ziyu, I said, "Please burn some for him. While we cannot offer him 50,000 taels of gold, we can certainly burn 50,000 taels of paper money each year." The sounds emanating from within the coffin grew increasingly faint, culminating in a few stifled sobs and desperate thumps. I raised my hand and tapped lightly on the side. The noises within ceased instantly. A gentle smile graced my lips as I expressed my heartfelt gratitude. Thank you for bestowing upon me a noble title with your life. The tale concludes here. Thank you for listening, and until we meet again in the next story.